Okay, guys, I'm back. All right, so I said I was going to make a second video, and this second video is about new initiative to it's research that I've done, that I've composed, and basically this hold on. This initiative is specifically geared towards young people. And I call it the hi. Say hi when you come in. Let me say hi to you. Okay. Okay, so this is geared towards specifically young people, and I've changed the age range of young people. I think statistically, young people are between the ages of 16 to 24. And because young people are going into the labor force much earlier, I shifted the age range from to under 16 and I expanded it all the way to under 40. Okay, and I think that people who are in their 30s are still considered young. They're not necessarily identified as youth, but they're still considered young. And what I did, I designed this and I researched this and I composed this research paper because there is several different tendencies in large-scale economies to overlook the youth of their specific countries. And what we tend to see is very high unemployment across the world, whether you are Black, whether you are non-Black. And again, this is not about any one particular group, but I think this would be beneficial. I think in Europe and in the United States, maybe more so in Europe, a little less in the United States, there would be a lot of red tape to do these kinds of things. But I think in areas of developing countries, if the developing countries have critical infrastructure, good, sound, decent critical infrastructure, and are relatively safe, I think this is an initiative that perhaps governments can look at. Okay, so say hi in the chat box. So again, guys, welcome. Thank you for joining me, but say hi in the chat box. Say hi in the chat box. So what I did is I did some research. This is an old research document. You guys are not saying hi. This is old research that I comprised, and I decided, you know what, why am I holding on to these research papers that I take the time to draft and write and research and do nothing with? Why not just, make a YouTube video about it? You guys are not saying hi. What's going on? So anyway, so this is what I called it the mobile economy. And when I say mobile, I don't mean cell phone, even though there is a mobile economy called M-commerce. M-commerce. This is not M-commerce. Okay, guys, why aren't you saying hi? Type in hi in the chat box so I know who you are and I can say hi back. Okay, this is not M-commerce. Okay, this is literally mobile as in transportation, right? So the mobile economy, we're going to go into it. And some of you are probably going to be like, hey, I don't want to hear this, but I'm making this video because it's a project that I think is very important. And I'm going to outline why I think this project is very important, why I think it's timely, why I think it should be given some sort of consideration. And it is not an answer to all the problems. It is not an answer to all economic problems. It is not an answer to all youth problems. It's not an answer. It's not a one-size-fits-all solution. It is just research in areas that I think would actually benefit the youth population across the world, because the youth population across the world are greatly overlooked. And I think in order to correct that, what must be done is that government should really consider funding, developing, and building a youth economy. And what is a youth economy? These are areas of activities that assist a country's GDP in all different areas of activities, of course. And it specifically targets the youth population. And by doing that, where you have economies or an economy specifically designed to meet the needs of the youth, I think it would help to curb a lot of the high unemployment. And one thing, when we look at my research, one thing we're going to see is that the youth unemployment across the planet is astronomically high. And that poses serious national security risks. Okay, so I think it's interesting. You know, I'm talking about this and I'm wearing a t-shirt, but don't let my t-shirt and my head wrap veer you away from what I'm talking about. Okay, the research is good, it's consistent. Take the research for what it is. And don't just look at the way I dress and say, we're not going to listen to you because of the way you're dressed. So let's get into the research, okay? All right, so, okay. So a mobile economy, a new economy for young entrepreneurs. Okay, so this is my research, and I created this in 2016. The mobile, I just called it in general, the mobile hotel template for youth, for youths, by youths, for youths, by youths. Okay, so we have the introduction. These are the table of contents, and we're going to go through these things. Okay, so hi, Lai. Or Lee. I'm not sure if it's Lai or Lee. Okay, so let's look at the table of contents. We have the introduction, the concept of what the mobile economy is, the goal and the objectives, the pros and cons, a business template, you know, your target markets, your funding, training, income, rent for hire, types of accommodations. We're looking at budgets, photographs, regions, world youth unemployment figures, tourism sector, safety indexes, and summary. Okay, so this is what it is. It's the mobile economy again, and it's a new economy for young people. Okay, addressing income equality and solving youth unemployment. Why is this important? Why is this important? It's important when we look at wealth from youth going into middle age, we see that if the financial principles of success, of savings, of solid economic foundations are not addressed early on in life, we tend to see that economic hardships develop later on in life. So that's the premise, right? And you guys, you can post questions and stuff like that. Now, this template partially uses statistics from the United States, okay? And again, this was done in 2016, so these statistics are 2 years old. That's to tell you how long I did this research. Okay, so in every country worldwide, there are used out-of-service public transportation buses, trucks, and semis. These vehicles are sometimes repurposed for scrap metal collection, part replacement, or scrapped or destroyed. Simultaneously, look at these numbers. There are an estimated 74 million youths worldwide. Now, these figures are old figures because I did this research 2 years ago. If you want to ask me questions, post the questions. I'll be more than happy to answer your questions. 74 million youths worldwide are unemployed. Other estimates indicate that the numbers are actually 6 or 7 times higher than reported. If these numbers were to reflect 7 times those estimates, that would put youth unemployment at 518 million worldwide. That is youth unemployment. According to the incumbent president, Bernie Sanders, youth unemployment figures in the United States across races are as follows. This is American statistics. Remember, it's 2 years old. Youth unemployment in the United States are at 33%. So that's 33% of, I think, 330 people. Black or African American, that is 51%. That is astronomical. I believe there are 77 million Black or African Americans in the United States. That means that 35 million of them, just above 35 million, are unemployed. That is crazy. Hispanic, 36%. Okay, 36%. These are figures for the United States. Okay, and these figures reflect, and I believe the Caucasian population is I can't remember the numbers of the Caucasian population, but it's pretty large. So 33% of that, you're looking at a lot of unemployed Caucasian people. You're looking at maybe 37 million unemployed Black or African Americans. And you're looking, I don't know the statistics of the Hispanic population. Okay. So these are figures for the United States. Now we're going to look at the mobile economy concept. The mobile economy is an economic model that can be described as an on-the-go economy, an economy on wheels. The mobile economy takes traditional businesses and places them on the back of a semi or a bus, thus giving the business owner greater latitude in doing business. Why? Because you're able to move around. It's kind of like a mobile internet where you're able to network with more people because you can literally travel to more destinations. For example, a successful business in today's economy has several headquarters and affiliate locations or subsidiaries, all of which require owning a building. With a mobile economy, a startup can expand at a much faster rate with less overhead expenses, thereby giving the startup a large footprint with less overhead expenses. Why? Because when we look at traditional businesses, we see that they need a storefront or a headquarters, an office, and these buildings actually take up a large percentage of the business's capital in operations cost, right? To actually run those businesses or run the headquarters or whatever. Applying the mobile economic principle to startups would allow CEOs of these mobile businesses to have access to more of their profits and more competitive advantage. The mobile economy is geared towards, and again, let me just say this. This is not for this research that I'm doing is not for everyone. Okay? It's not for everyone, but I'm making this video because I've been sitting on this research for so long and I figured, you know what, make a video on it. The mobile economy is targeted towards youths under 40 years of age. It takes into consideration several factors: globalization, evolving job markets, high youth unemployment, exorbitant cost of living, wage inequality, heavy taxation schemes, and bureaucracy. Okay, so all of these things, all of these factors factor into young people finding employment at an early age and making solid financial business decisions that can put them, when they're middle-aged, in a comfortable living environment and comfortable financial security. By converting present industrial models to a mobile economy, while harnessing the youth population, we hope to achieve the following: cost of living commensurate with income, because that's one of the factors that affect young people. Flat taxation relative to earnings. We see heavy taxation schemes if people want to start businesses. Low youth unemployment. We see the figures for the United States, how these figures are serious. Okay, when we look at things like crime, we have to factor in unemployment rate among young people. Long-term job stabilization. Why is this important? Long-term job stabilization is important, especially since we came out of two economic recessions back to back, economic recession. Having long-term job tenure is difficult to find. And income equality. The reason why income equality is so difficult is because a lot of times young people are going into old business models where the mindset is not catching up with the times in terms of income equality for men versus women, income equality according to disability, income equality according to race, gender, sex, identity, all these things, right? So we look at cost of living commensurate with income. Okay. Again, let me stress, this is not for everyone. This is just research that I was working on. And I figured, hey, why not make a video about this? Okay, some people are not going to be interested in this, and that's fair. Okay, so according to a New York Times article, the cost of living in the United States is rising relative to income. I just looked at a post where it literally tells you, how much money you're going to be paying over a period of time for rent. And it's literally exorbitant, right? So we see that the cost of living is rising, but the cost of your income is stagnated, and it's been stagnated for like 50 years. The effects of this has had a great economic impact on the middle class, causing their buying power to decrease. The mobile economy is a small business concept. It's small business, or it could be constituted as a micro business. A small micro business, either one, concept that has low overhead and operating expenses, allowing for decent livable wages. Mobile economic jobs cannot be outsourced. One of the major critical factors of job stability and income stability is outsourcing of a lot of jobs. And one of the ways I address this is that having a mobile economy, it is difficult for the job to be outsourced, right? Taxes relative to earnings. Research indicates that on average, Americans pay 100 different taxes to the government each year. Even though the American taxes is not the highest in the world, Americans pay the most amounts of taxes in the world. And of all the peoples on the planet, Americans get the least from their government when it comes to remuneration from those taxes, any sort of incentives from the taxes. And I always I always have this discussion with Americans. Whenever I ask them, I said, I wasn't born in the United States, but I always ask them, I said, how is it Americans are happy and content with not getting free education with a US economy that's so large? And, they're just like, well, who's going to pay for it? I'm like, you already paid for it. And, there's this sort of cognitive dissonance when you try to tell them, you already paid for it. It's up to the government to allocate the money to you. It's your money. You paid for it. No other country on the planet pays this many different kinds of taxes. Americans do. To facilitate a robust mobile economy, consideration should be made towards a single taxation scheme encompassing income and corporate taxes. Okay, so taxes relative to earnings. So you're not going to pay one taxation scheme as a family, but you can pay one taxation scheme both for your business and for your personal taxes, right? So it keeps the tax burden low. And I'm not a tax expert. These are just theories, okay? Theories. Some of these are just theories. Okay, low youth unemployment. We have articulated that the youth unemployment in the United States of America are 11.2% as of December 2015. These are old statistics. It's probably gone up by now. The mobile economy would like to offset these numbers by its long-term stabilization goal of graduation to ownership program. And I will go into what graduation to ownership means in terms of business. Okay, excuse me here. Make some corrections here while I'm chit-chatting. Okay, long-term stabilization. The mobile economy hopes to achieve long-term stabilization through our graduation to ownership program. The graduation to ownership program works by incorporating hands-on training in managing and operating a mobile business. And upon successful completion of the course, the graduate will earn a mobile platform as employment. What does that mean? You become a part of this mobile economy. You go to school, you study the business of running a mobile business, the laws that are associated with it. For example, there's the carbon tax laws, there's these transportation, heavy vehicles laws, the licensing that goes along with it, understanding how gas and these things affect your business, the price of oil and gas. You could go for electric, these kinds of things. Okay, this long-term stabilization goal fosters low employment in that the graduate graduates with a diploma, employment, and the means of operating his or her own business. What does that mean? The long-term stabilization simply says, when you graduate from this program, you are not a graduate with a piece of paper, a certification, but you are literally graduating into running your business. Does that make sense? You're literally graduating into running your own business. The scheme proliferates a highly competitive model for graduation in that the student cannot graduate without the highest level of skill and performance criteria in the mobile economy. You graduate with a business and employment. You don't go looking for a business. You don't go looking for funding for your business. You graduate into full ownership of your business. And when you go to school, the goal of the school is to teach you how to run that business. And when you're running the business, the goal of the schools is to mentor you while you're running that business. So that's different from the graduate rates today, where people are graduating today and they cannot find jobs commensurate with their degrees. So I call that long-term stabilization. Now let's look at income inequality. The mobile economy is a novel, merit, and performance-based economy on wheels. This economy exists outside of traditional corporate structures, which are dominated by age, sex, race, and class. Therefore, it can be surmised that this type of economy can dramatically decrease income inequality that exists in traditional economies. And then the people who are spearheading these economies are actually young people, and young people today are a little more open-minded than previous age groups who tend to be more conservative and narrow-minded in their belief structures. The mobile economy and pollution. Now, this is going to be the biggest area. Oil and gas, the price of oil and gas on your business, that's one. Transportation regulations for heavy vehicles, that's two. And the biggest one, which is pollution, because the mobile economy is an economy on wheels. The number one constraint to an energized mobile economy would be the increased number of large vehicles on the roads and the pollution emitted from the exhaust of those vehicles. According to research done by the Union of Concerned Scientists, transportation accounts for the largest single source of air pollution in the United States. The article goes on to state that cars and trucks contribute to 1/5 of the United States' greenhouse gases. The mobile economy will add an increased number of large vehicles on the nation's roads. Therefore, we must seek an early solution to this challenge. To remedy this problem, a consideration should be made that all vehicles be retrofitted with an exhaust capture and filtration system on the exhaust pipe. That is one way. The exhaust capture and filtration system would prohibit the release of toxic gases emitted by vehicles into the air, thus permitted only heated oxygen back into the atmosphere. The second solution is the heat exchange that occurs in the engine of the vehicles. You know, that's just basic solutions in dealing with the pollution from, if you're gonna have a robust mobile economy, your number one problem of having a robust mobile economy is pollution. So you can do electric vehicles. That's one solution. Your exhaust pipe can be retrofitted. You know, you can have different types of fuels that are low pollution based fuels, right? Okay, so the integration of a mobile economy would also increase traffic on the nation's roads. This is another challenge. I'm not saying that my solution is the right one, but these are considerations to be made. In order to combat road traffic, the creation of select lanes for large vehicles could be a consideration. Therefore, a simple redesigning and integrating of roads for an increase in large vehicles would assist in the development of the mobile economy. We have to take into consideration, more than likely the mobile economy would be something that would be done inside of large cities. And we know the traffic in these large cities is going to be greatly affected with more large vehicles. So these are considerations to be made when we're looking at, you know, a mobile economy. By resolving to make minor upgrades in engine design, we hope to capture heat emissions and exhaust gases while emitting oxygen back into the atmosphere. The vehicles used in a mobile economy would operate on clean energy and oil and gas. However, they would be designed to produce little to no pollution. If nations were to implement these measures at the inception of the mobile economy, we can forfeit long-term hazards and environmental pollutions. Okay, so these are some of the things you want to look for. So the mobile hotel, this is an example of one type of mobile industry. Okay, the mobile hotel seeks to fill the gap between the quantity of out-of-service large service vehicles and youth unemployment by merging the two to create a new business model for emerging market economies in developing countries. I designed this specifically for developing countries. And I'll show you later on in the research the breakdown of youth unemployment by country. The mobile hotel would source used out-of-service public transportation buses or retired trucks, which require little to no servicing, i.e. engine repair. The interior would be retrofitted into a mobile cross-country hotel. I'll give some examples of that later. Maybe we can actually look at some of them right now. Let's look at some ideas. Okay. Okay. Let's look at some good ones. Yeah, I mean, these are expensive, you know, but we could take a look at some of this. I'll be quick with this. I don't want to show too much. Okay, so we see some of these interiors here. You know, so I'll be quick with that. I don't want to show too much of that. Okay, so we see the prototype there, right? Okay, so retrofit and redesign capabilities, thermal, solar, wind, electric, and or gas. So we see the different ways you can have energy to run your vehicle. Vehicles may also have the option of double-decker capabilities based on road safety standards. Young unemployed individuals accepted into the training program would be trained in every area of business regarding the mobile hotel industry. Is anyone following along, or is it just... Upon successful completion of the course, each individual can purchase, loan, or lease a bus or a truck of their choosing, accompanied with relevant business contacts, personal website, and 1 year subsidized oil and gas. Okay, so these are some of the ways you can incentivize a program like this. Again, it is also dependent upon, you know, countries' infrastructure, safety, traffic laws, oil, the price of oil and gas, energy, all these things. Is anyone following? Is anyone there? Okay. So once a person passes the age of 40, then they're allowed to maintain part ownership of the business, but they should have an apprentice program for up and coming young entrepreneurs in order to maintain the benefits of the business. Mobile hotels has the option of being passed on as generational inheritance. Okay, mobile hotels has the option of working with existing hotel chains or independent of them. Oh, excellent. Hi. Hi, True Crimes. Okay, so we see here, this model can be adapted to the over 50 unemployment bracket as well. So we see that, for example, one type of mobile industry is a mobile hotel. So we see that hotels can only be in one place. Today, hotels can only be in one place at one time. No, it's okay, True Crimes. You can always go back and look at the video from the beginning. You didn't miss too much. This is just some research that I was working on and I wanted to share it. Maybe it can be beneficial to anyone looking to start a business. Okay, so we see that, for example, a mobile hotel, today traditional hotels can only be in one place at one time. But the benefits of a mobile hotel branding, let's say you're the Marriott or you're the Bellagio or you're, I don't know, Four Seasons, and you want to expand your market, you can expand your market into the mobile hotel industry, okay, where you have buses with your branding and your logo on it, and it can allow people to travel at a greater distance, and see more of, I don't know, the city, the country, whatever. Okay? So, hi, let me say hi to you, True Grimes. Hi. Okay. So in order for this model to achieve its objectives, the business model must be suited to young entrepreneurs. It must be owned and operated for and by young entrepreneurs. So the goals and objectives are clear. The short-term goals is organize donors lists, because you're going to need money for the training program, youth enrollment, master list of industries. You know, the short-term goal is to spur growth in the tourism sector, housing sector, hospitality sector, different areas of businesses. Then you want to develop qualitative. Okay. Then you want to develop qualitative measures for success to maintain levels of quality. You want to develop quantitative measures of success, so that way, you know, you can map out, you know, the success rate, failures, things to look at, statistical models to see whether or not this is feasible, the impact on the environment, the impact on the economy, the impact on youth, etc., etc. Then you need to draft a training modules. What would training look like? Then things in terms of budgetary considerations. What would the cost of training be? What would the cost of, you know, grant, you know, giving young people grants to start these businesses? Startup costs, building websites, your marketing, individual business plans. And when we look at the long-term goals and objectives, we see youth asset ownership. Now, this is something really peculiar. How many young people can honestly say that they have assets they inherited from their parents? Honestly, not too many. Not too many, right? And it's nothing to be embarrassed about, because most people on the planet did not inherit anything from their parents. But why should we be satisfied with no asset ownership? Okay, so we're looking at this model, and one of the long-term goals is to build youth asset ownership. We want to create wealthier young people. Why do we want to create wealthier young people. Because the more young people we have who are wealthy, okay, the more those young people, they eventually grow to be middle-aged and older. And they in turn are able to transfer their assets onto their children. So what we're trying to do here with the youth economy is to create generations of asset owning young people. Asset owning young people. We want to build long-term growth, wealth creation, and wealth building, long-term sustainable employment. And one of the good things about this model is that your employment can never be outsourced. It can never be outsourced. We looked at a previous video that I did that white collar jobs are being outsourced. And now we see that it's not just the fear of your jobs being outsourced to other countries. Now human beings are literally competing with robots. Okay, so we're not just competing with outsourcing the jobs to developing countries, both blue and white collar. We're not just competing with immigration. We're also competing with artificial intelligence, who's another group that's focused on taking over jobs, and robots, automation. There are another groups who are taking over jobs. So today's job market is totally different from the job market of 10, 15 years ago. So we're not just competing with developed countries and developing countries. We're not just competing with outsourcing of jobs to other countries. We're not just competing with immigration, people coming into the country. We're also competing with artificial intelligence, who are taking jobs, and automation, which is robots. So one of the benefits of the mobile economy is that no one can outsource your job. Decreased global youth unemployment, quantitative and qualitative analysis. Our objectives are to implement an actual mobile business and measure its success in order to determine qualitative and quantitative metrics for long-term sustainability. Okay, so let's look at some of the pros. We see wealth and asset building, right? We see reduction in pre-post-college employment, okay? Because we're seeing now a unique phenomena all over the planet where we were told for 20 years, education is the key to unemployment. So then droves of people started to become more and more educated. What wasn't planned for was the increased number of educated people and the scarcity of jobs. And one of the factors of this new dilemma of high education rates versus X factor amount of jobs is that they didn't factor in there are only but so much jobs the government can hire. There are only but so much jobs corporations can create. And the rest, if you can't find a job, you have to make one. And the good thing about social media is social media also allows you to create e-commerce jobs. And the mobile economy is an extension of this e-commerce and m-commerce in that it takes the networking concept of the internet, of e-commerce businesses, of m-commerce, mobile commerce, and it puts it on the back of a vehicle. It takes all traditional jobs and puts it on the back of a vehicle. Save cities millions annually. Waste reduction, youth unemployment. The goal is to spur economic growth and the job creation and job retention. So these are some of the pros we're looking at the mobile economy, and these are some of the cons. The disadvantages: carbon footprint. We have to deal with this carbon footprint. It's not going to go away. However, one of the ways we can look at this carbon footprint is by having clean energy. Okay. Another factor is road safety. With the mobile economy, there's going to be an increased burden on the critical infrastructure, on roads, on bridges, and on traffic. So these are considerations to take into, that we have to consider. All businesses, there are pros and there are cons. For example, in China, it cost China 80% of their potable water. 80% of China's rivers and lakes are toxic. That's what it's cost China to develop. At the same time, within 20 plus years, the Chinese economy is second to the United States. So we see the benefits that the Chinese literally pulled over 1 billion people out of whatever poverty means, an agrarian society, into a developed country. But it cost China their roads, not their roads, their greenery, their air, and their water. It's costing China today. However, those same things, when the United States was a manufacturing country, it cost the large manufacturing cities the same thing. But then they created the EPA, and a lot of these manufacturing companies were dismantled and moved abroad. Now we have cleaner air. So you see, development comes with pluses and minuses. So we have to look at this as a balanced model. But if we're solving the crisis of youth unemployment, we have to at least start somewhere. It's an untested business model. Actually, it's not an untested business model. It is a tested model. However, we haven't tested this to see what benefits we can use from this as a youth economic model. Untested the taxes. Okay, how would the taxation for youth businesses look like? Would the government say, we don't give a damn, we're going to tax you as a corporation? Or would the government say, you know what? This is geared towards the youth, then we should have youth taxation. Would larger corporations complain and say, we don't give a damn, they should be taxed the same way as us? Or would the government say, you know what? This is a youth economy, it's expanding the GDP, we should include this into a new bracket of taxation where the tax burden isn't as heavy? Would the tax burden be sufficient enough to take care of critical infrastructure? You see what I'm saying? Okay. Then there's things like when you're dealing with developed countries, bureaucracy. To do something like this in Europe, I can imagine the red tape. It's probably going to cost you so much to do something like this in Europe. It may not even be feasible to do it. In the United States, there's bureaucracy, but I don't think it's going to be that bad in the United States, right? Then we're looking at things like, let's look at budgetary considerations. Is anyone else there? Is anyone there? Is anyone enjoying this, or is it so boring you can't even like? Okay. Is anyone there? Okay, so let's look at budgetary considerations. Motor carrier costs per mile. This is old. These are old statistics, okay? We see that fuel cost is 58 cents on the dollar. Truck, trailer lease or purchase payments, that's 21 cents. These are actual statistics, okay? These are from trucking companies. These are the operational costs. Repair and maintenance is about 15 cents on the dollar. Truck insurance premiums, these are 7 cents on the dollar. The permits and licenses is about 2 cents. The tires, 4 cents. Tolls, about 2 cents. Driver wages, which is usually the largest for every type of business, wages, is about 46 cents on the dollar. And then the benefits is about 13 cents for a total of $1.70. Okay? Why are these numbers not here? Okay, I'll just delete them. Vehicle base, I don't know what that is. Okay, so fuel followed by wages. For every business, we tend to see 2 things or 3 things which are consistently high. Wages always being at number 1, health insurance number 2, and energy number 3. And we see the same thing for a mobile business. We see the number 1 wages are the number 1, budgetary considerations are wages at 46 cents. And we see, repair and maintenance. Fuel costs, energy again, at 58 cents. So we see traditional businesses and mobile businesses basically share the same types of considerations on their budget. I don't know why this disappeared. Okay. Anyway, so fuel followed by wages are the 2 most expensive components of the operating costs to run a mobile hotel. To offset these costs, we have opted for alternative energy to fuel the vehicles and diverting those expenses to pay for wages. So again, you have ways around offsetting that fuel, because we see that the fuel costs here are 58 cents on the dollar and the wages are at 46 cents on the dollar. Let's look at the business template. Again, this is not for everyone. This is just research that I did that I thought would be interesting to put out there because I was sitting on this for so long. Okay, so business template, we see, a niche market, you identify your unemployed youth. We see tourism sector being a viable industry. We see private travel industry being another viable industry. Then we have allocate funding. The biggest funders would be governments, corporate social responsibility. You see a lot of corporations practicing CSRs, which is corporate social responsibilities, where they engage in things outside of the product or service that their company provides. We see NGOs, then direct corporate funding, private donors, businesses, grants. And we see things like training in sectors. We have hospitality and tourism. That would be training if you want to run a mobile hotel. Certifications, drafting the business plans, the licensing and permits, money management program, how to run the business, marketing and finance, maintenance, first aid, and regulatory health and regulatory considerations. Then we look at income resources and rent for hire. These are some of the things that you can do on the back of, I think this is the exciting part. These are some of the things you can do on the back of a 4-wheeler, a mobile hotel. Now, who wouldn't want to take a bus, beautifully double-decker converted bus, and go on vacation cross-country? People have weddings, they have planned engagements, they might want to get out of the city. So if you have any type of events, then holiday events, then you could do things like tourism, mobile excursions, safaris. Now we're dealing with more like developing countries, maybe Africa, the Middle East, vacation homes, building them and selling them as mobile vacation homes, mobile events, mobile meetings. Let's say, you're tired of your traditional corporate meeting and you want to take your team. You're meeting a new executive and you're working on a business deal and you're like, hey, let's get out for the boring ass, business meeting, and you want to do something new. You hire a mobile meeting. They come, they pick up the team, they take you for a ride around the city. You get to wine and dine your business guests. And you come back. Mobile housing. Some people, there are some countries like England, in particular, that are experiencing a housing crisis. Okay, and then we see things with students not wanting to rent somewhere, or tourists not wanting to stay in the dorms. Mobile housing. Then you can do things like a spa and relaxation, where you could put a spa, a beauty store on the back of a mobile bus. Mobile hospitals, in places where hospitals are deficient, where there aren't many hospitals or mobile hospitals. In places where there aren't medical services, mobile dental clinics, mobile medical clinics, mobile pet clinics. Then in places where there's where kids can't afford school, you know, you can put mobile education where you can drive into the village, teach the children, you're Wi-Fi capable, and then at the end of the day, you drive right back out. Mobile offices, farms, labs, churches, dorms, health and wellness. You know, let's say, you know, you're dealing with a country or a place that doesn't have good critical infrastructure, you can put the energy on the back of a mobile truck, come in, power up the community. When electricity is back up, power down, you're out. Mobile water, which is something that's pretty old, but that's another business solution. Mobile waste to energy units, where, you know, you're going around, you're pulling out the waste from the communities, you pull out, you sell the waste or you convert it. Mobile Wi-Fi. Mobile Wi-Fi is something I think that would be very successful. I think mobile Wi-Fi would be extremely successful because so many people want to be connected to the internet. However, the country, the government cannot afford to lay the critical infrastructure for these, you know, infrastructural projects. It's just too expensive. I recently heard this company that was working with the African governments, and he said, listen, to lay the critical infrastructure to make Africa come into the 21st century for the internet, it's not millions of dollars, it's not billions of dollars, it's hundreds of billions of dollars. So I said, you know, when I heard that, I said, mobile Wi-Fi, low cost, low overhead, you roll up, they have their Wi-Fi, you roll out. Mobile libraries, okay, again, these are for places that are book deserts or knowledge deserts. Mobile telecommunications, these are places where there are telecommunications deserts, like food deserts, okay? Then you can have mobile markets, food markets, where, you know, you pull up with your produce. America has hundreds of food deserts, hundreds of food deserts. You pull up with your vegetables and your fruits on the back of a bus, you sell it, and at the end of the day, you roll right back out. Mobile disaster preparedness units, okay? These are wonderful in that you roll up, you can get all these things up and running, the temporary structures, you put people on board the back of these units, they have toilets, they have bathrooms, they have beds, and you can roll them out to safe areas. Very easy to do. You roll in, you get the people, they can bathe, they can use the bathroom, they have beds, and you roll them out of the disaster areas. Types of accommodations, you have hotels, you have hostels, traveling private residences, housing, spas, hotels, clinics, and medical clinics, okay? Okay, so let's look at some US statistics. Hi. Hi, Phoenix. Okay, so let's look at some US statistics, okay? Number of cities in the United States. This is a conservative estimate. We have 20,000 cities in the United States. Hotels per city. This is all research that I did, okay? We have about 10 hotels per city. Remember, the United States has 330 plus million people. We have 10 hotels per city on average. Number of jobs, these are just averages. 3 jobs per 10 hotels. These are just averages, okay? Total number of jobs, 600,000. Conservative estimates of hotels per city at 10. Okay, these are just conservative estimates. Let's look at direct jobs matrix for the mobile hotel. Okay, so these are all the people that you're going to be paying. So this is where some of your money is going out in terms of, again, in terms of one of the high areas when you own a business, one of the areas of the majority of your expenses where it goes to, okay? So in terms of US job creation, okay, I'm sorry, I didn't say those numbers correctly. There are 20,000 cities in the United States. Let's say hypothetically, you put 10 mobile businesses, mobile hotel businesses in your 20,000 cities. So that is just 10 mobile hotel trucks in 20,000 cities with just 3 employees. That is 600,000 jobs. Okay, so we see this creation scheme here. You have the US job creation. You have, if you put 10 mobile hotels per city with 3 people per job, okay, at 20,000 US cities, that is 600,000 jobs created. Okay, that is 600,000 jobs created. And we know that 10 extra heavy vehicles on the road is not going to impact the US critical infrastructure that severely. Okay, so let's look at direct jobs matrix for a mobile hotel. Hypothetically, this is the people who you're going to be paying. So you would be the owner. Obviously, you would have an engineer and a designer. You would have an executive assistant to help you with all your office work, a driver and a mechanic. You may have your driver serve as security. You could be driver/security, so that would eliminate one other role. You would have rest stop maintenance, so someone who could perform maintenance. And what's interesting is that the drivers, except for the mechanic part, drivers on these buses usually perform security, perform maintenance in terms of water tank refilling, sanitation services, and waste removal. So technically you're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4. Hi. You're looking at 4 different jobs. But if you want the jobs to be separate, okay, because we see here the driver would perform these things: rest stop maintenance, refilling the water tank, sanitation services, and waste removal. So we're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And also some drivers serve as security as well, or you may want to hire additional security, right? Okay, so it must be noted, investment in the mobile economy would require an upgrade in critical infrastructure. Now, this is just assuming that, let's say you started off, it's going to be 10 mobile hotels per city. That's not going to have a significant impact on critical infrastructure. But let's just say young people decide, you know what, screw this economy sucks. And I think this is a brilliant idea. And let's say hundreds of thousands or more than 600,000 young people decide to get into this. Then we're looking at things like the impact on critical infrastructure, right? Okay, so it must be noted that investment in the mobile economy would require some type of upgrade in critical infrastructure, right? Truck and coach rest stops should include lots for waste removal, water tank refills, and sanitation services. Based upon, I should say our estimates, we see that the implementation of the mobile hotel would or could create 8 direct jobs added to the economy. Now let's look at some mobile hotels and some mobile homes. Now, wouldn't you want to own something like this? Isn't this fabulous? These are not mine, okay? These are from luxury buses. This is a double-decker. Wouldn't this be fabulous? I mean, seriously. Is anyone there? How come no one's saying hi? Okay, so wouldn't this be fabulous as a mobile hotel or mobile business? I mean, this is just, to me, this is amazing. And then this is the interior for what a mobile hotel, one of them would look like, right? These are not my images. These are just samples to give people an idea of what it would look like, okay? So here we have some images of what a mobile business would look like. And I think this is so fantastic and fabulous. If I had the money, I'd start it right away. So this is more specific. This is a coach bus, His Majesty. And look how fabulous this is. I mean, this is beautiful. Look at this. And then this is the bar, right? But this is from a train though. But this, you could retrofit this to make it look like a bar. Right, so these are some of what the interiors would look like. So, all right, let's get in. Is anyone there? Is anyone enjoying this at all? Or am I boring you to death? Is anyone there? Okay, well, all right, so let's look at world youth unemployment by rank. Look at these horrible numbers. Ages 15 to 24. And when we expand the ages from 15 to 24, the unemployment becomes astronomical. Astronomical. So this is 15 to 24. We see that Bosnia and Herzegovina, the unemployment rate is 63%. Greece, the unemployment rate is 55%. What's interesting is that the unemployment rates for Europe seems to be very, very high. Kosovo, 55%. Macedonia, 54%. Spain at 53%. South Africa at 52%. Serbia at 51%. Guyana at 46%. South America. Croatia at 43%. Tunisia, let's look at the United States if it's here. Now, what's interesting is when we look at places like the Middle East where there was a coup, Arab Spring, we see that it was driven by who? Young people. This is why I'm making this video. This is why I'm making this video. I'm making this video because we see when there's high youth unemployment, we tend to see that there comes a crescendo, a point in time where they want their governments gone. And I'm like, look, you leaders, if you were to adopt some kind of policy that would allow, hey, Chukrat, thank you for you're the only one who's like, I think everyone else thinks this is the most boring thing they ever heard because they're not commenting. So if you would allow for an economy for the youth, by the youth, a tax bracket that is geared towards incentivizing youth facilitated businesses for the youth, by the youth. Long term, and it may not be the mobile economy, it could be something like e-commerce. That's another type of networked economy, but that's going through the internet. It could be m-commerce, which is cell phone, which is mobile commerce. It could be the mobile economy, which is, wheeled vehicles. Why did I do this? When we look at governments being overthrown, or we look at things like restlessness, what do we see? We see the young people getting so tired of being overlooked, disenfranchised. They do everything that they tell them to do. For example, you don't have a job because you're not educated. So they go and they become educated. They go into debt, getting these degrees, and then they come out of debt, they look for jobs, and then they can't find jobs that pays them the wages according to their degrees, and then they have all this debt that they can't pay. How long are you going to sustain that model? So what I'm saying is, I'm like, look, governments, there is a threat of young people rising up taking to the streets and demanding your removal. And I looked at that and I said, look, if you were to get young people into their own economy, you're less likely to deal with a situation where they're older and they have no wealth. You're less likely to deal with a situation where they're young, overeducated, and unemployed, and then take to the streets and demand your removal. In short, you're less likely to deal with youth uprisings. And the majority of uprisings across the planet is fueled by overlooking young people. The Arab Spring, young people just got sick and tired of not sharing in their country's wealth. True crimes, you're the only one who's enjoying this. Everyone else seems to be bored as hell, but I'm glad you enjoy it and I'm glad you like it. And I hope that you could find a way. I'll tell you something about the mobile health food truck. Thank you for engaging in the conversation. The mobile health food truck in the United States, I'm not sure if I put the research in this research that I did. In the United States, there are thousands. Do you hear me? Thousands of food deserts. What does that mean? The United States has over 20,000 cities. Thousands of those cities do not have access to green produce. Do not have access to green. You can beat a company like Amazon to it with a mobile grocery. And once you get into, let's say you're in New York. Let's say hypothetically you're in New York. I'm going to use New York as an example. Some parts of New York City, there are green deserts. There are food deserts. Food in terms of fresh vegetables, fresh fruit. Let's say within New York City, there are 10 food deserts. Luckily, New York City is a transient city where people could travel outside of where they live to pick up their green fruits and vegetables. But the good thing is, if you have a mobile truck, you can meet them at their point of need. And if you incorporated your mobile truck into shipping, you can meet two needs at the same time. So yes, a mobile food truck, because there are thousands. Let's look at the statistics. And I'm glad you're enjoying this because everyone else seems to be bored out of their minds. And I think this is so fascinating, you know? So true crimes, you and I are going to enjoy this conversation because no one else finds it interesting. Okay. See, look, food deserts in New York City. Let's see what the statistics say. Yep. Did you know there are neighborhoods that don't have access to grocery stores? This is New York. If your proposed solution to this would be, well, build a grocery store, you might be surprised to learn that doing so actually makes no difference according to NYU study published this February, blah, blah, blah. Food deserts. Okay? As such neighborhoods are called, are typically low-income areas. But what's interesting about low-income areas is that some of these low-income areas, they actually have, what do you call this thing? SNAP, Supplementary Nutritional Assistance Programs, that would allow you for them to use their SNAP to purchase your produce. And if you were to meet them there with a veggie truck, a food and veggie truck, right then and there you resolve a problem. So let's look at food deserts in the United States. Okay? Oh, you're going to be shocked when you see this. Okay, let's look at this image. Okay? These are food deserts. True Crimes, are you there? These are food deserts in the United States. Now, can you imagine if you were to have a fleet of trucks in 50 states, what kind of business you can have? Are you there, True Crimes, or did I bore you to death too? This is a map of the food deserts in the United States. Shocking, isn't it? Look at this. No car and no supermarket store within a mile. This is the US. Okay, this is greater than 10%, dark brown. Okay, this is it 5.1 to 10%, that auburn reddish color. This is 2.5, the orange, to 5% orange. This is less than 2.5%, all the no car and no supermarket store within a mile. And then the rest, what the hell color is this? Vomitous color, no available data. Okay. Yep. Fascinating, isn't it? And who do you think should solve a crisis like this? Young people. Young people. All right, so let's look at these statistics. So let's go down more statistics here. We see Trinidad is 107 on the list with 10.5 unemployment. I don't know where the United States, the United States is 72 at 17.3% unemployment. Youth unemployment. So the country with the lowest youth unemployment is Malaysia at 10.3. And the country with the highest youth unemployment is Bosnia-Herzegovina. At 63%. Okay, based upon the world's youth unemployment figure above, we see double-digit figures for 108 countries, double digits in unemployment, ranging from lowest to highest, with Malaysia at 10.3% and Bosnia-Herzegovina at 62.8%. Okay, so tourism sector. Okay, these are the statistics. It's gonna be a little difficult to read. Why is tourism sector important? Because again, if you're doing something like a mobile economy, this is something that you should look into. So we're looking at our tourism sector. Okay, we see Bosnia and Herzegovina. Hold on, let me just make sure this is 108 countries with double-digit youth unemployment. We see Bosnia-Herzegovina at 157 million. This is what the tourist sector generates. Okay. This shouldn't say rank. It should just say position. Okay, for statistics from 2011 to 2015 in US dollars, 157 million. So is something like this feasible? If the tourism sector, we see high unemployment, the highest with Bosnia-Herzegovina at 63%, but we see a pretty reasonable income generation from the tourism sector, right? We see Greece at 2,486 million, Spain 22 billion. I mean, these numbers are incredible. Okay, Spain's unemployment is, let's see here, 53.2%, and their tourism sector for years 2011 to 2015 is 22,565 million. South Africa is 6,490 million, And South Africa's unemployment is astronomical. This I know, 52%. Okay, let's look at some more figures here. We see Italy at 33,504,000,000. That's US dollars. That's their tourism. And look at Italy's unemployment, youth unemployment, 35.3. Okay, so we see that when we look at these numbers, we see although these countries have ridiculously high youth unemployment, at the same time, we see incredible astronomical figures in terms of their tourism sectors generating levels of income in the hundreds of millions and even the billions. Egypt is 3,466,000,000. We see the United States, which I think is probably the largest, 136,707,000,000. That's the tourism sector for the United States. Okay, let's see Jamaica. Jamaica is 380 million. That's a tiny island. I think Jamaica is like 8 million people. Okay, we see in Jamaica, we see, hold on, 380 million. Let's look at the unemployment in Jamaica. Jamaica is at 34% unemployment. I think the population in Jamaica is about 8 million. 8 million with a 34% unemployment. What do you think that tells you? What do you think that tells you? When you have a country that's 8 million and 34% of that population is unemployed, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Crime. And I guarantee you, the majority of that unemployed population are who? Young people. Young people. Okay, so we look at these incredible figures, statistics, and we see that countries, which is really a phenomenon, countries with very gruesome levels of youth unemployment having exorbitant tourism generation. So why not create models that can address both a sector that we know that is an income generating sector to a group that we know who tends to be astronomically marginalized. Okay, so one of the factors we have to look at is if this plan is to be implemented outside of the United States, safety. Okay, so this is a safety map, and I think I got this from the CIA. No, source, Department of Foreign Affairs, sorry. Department of Foreign Affairs. Okay, so red, the Department of Foreign Affairs puts red, avoid all travel. So that's the Middle East and Central Africa. Okay, that's probably because of wars and strifes and these things. Avoid non-essential travel. That's that puke color. I guess that's supposed to be orange. That's Libya and Pakistan. Yellow is avoid some travel. That's South America, Mexico, Russia, Turkey, India, and some parts of Africa, most of Asia. Exercise a high degree of caution. That's South America, Southern Africa, Northern Africa, Saudi Arabia, Middle East, and take normal security precautions. That's the rest. Okay, so we see 1 out of the 108 countries surveyed or map indicates that less than 20 of those countries are to be avoided. Okay, so out of 108 countries, our safety map indicates that there are about 20 countries that should be avoided at all costs. Based upon the tourism and safety data of the 108 countries, we can assume that mobile hotels may be a viable source of income, right? We can also deduce that the mobile economy may be a viable industry, particularly in certain countries which lack critical infrastructure. And I think I'm done. According to the statistics, there needs to be a comprehensive plan to address the global youth unemployment while simultaneously generating income for nations who fall into the double-digit category of youth unemployment. Converted bus truck model hotels, seeks to accomplish this goal by targeting unemployed youth, providing them with necessary resources to start a business across multiple sectors while spurring economic growth. Our business model will adopt strong measures for aging business owners above 40 to maintain part ownership while permitting generational inheritance. An older owner may pass on the business to a younger member of his family or keep it. Successful implementation of this project would be measured by a decline in unemployment rates among youth globally, combined with a growth in youth asset ownership and job retention. Okay, so that's it. What do you guys think? So that's the research that I did. This is 2-year-old research. Okay. Thank you for joining me. I don't see any, hold on. Let's see here. No, I don't see my video. Hold on. It's okay. Where's my video? I guess they're not letting me show it twice, but that's okay. Okay, so that's that. I'm back. Oops. So that's the research I did. It's about 2 years old. Sorry. It's about 2 years old, that research that I did, and working to strategize and develop a business model. I mean, it's not the only business model. A lot of young people are getting involved in the e-commerce, m-commerce, blogging, these types of businesses. But again, how many people could actually, can actually make a viable income doing that? So what I'm doing is I'm expanding a lot the already existing business concepts that young people are engaged in. A lot of young people are engaged in vlogging, which is YouTubing. A lot of young people are engaged in blogging, travel, e-commerce businesses, mobile commerce businesses. So my objective was to introduce another one. But again, when we talk about developing countries, a lot of developing countries lack the critical infrastructure for having an e-commerce business, but they may have the critical infrastructure for a m-commerce business. But if their mobile capabilities are limited, they cannot really develop a proper mobile commerce business, okay, using cell phones. That's mobile commerce. So what I did is I looked at that and I said to myself, I said, but they might be able to have a mobile economy, and they might be able to sustain a mobile economy because all it requires is just a large vehicle, the energy to run it, the knowledge of running a small business, because it is essentially a small business on wheels, the knowledge of running a small business, and then you're up and you're ready to go. And it has very low overhead. You don't have to deal with a lot of employees. And I think this can be translated to a lot of developing countries, especially countries where we see the unemployment rates are like 60%, 50%. This is astronomical. And when we look at population, what is the population of Bosnia and Herzegovina? That 63%, of their population is unemployed. Imagine the crime. You know, when we look at populations, like we didn't even take statistics. I'm not sure if we took statistics for China. What is the unemployment rate for China? Okay. So again, I thought this was fascinating. Share this. No one is really speaking. Does anyone have any questions? Nothing? Nada? Sorry, I had to step away for it. But yeah, I think it's an excellent edit, especially in the food. Yeah, so true crimes. Thank you. I have 7 people on the line, and everyone, I guess everyone is somewhere else. Oh, here comes someone. Our population is more unemployed than the... Okay, Babu, you're absolutely right. Remember what I said? If you go back to the beginning of this presentation, this was made 2 years ago. So the unemployment is much higher. Much higher. Okay? And yep, it's much higher because these statistics are old. Because I did this research 2 years ago and I had it sitting there and I'm like, why do I have the statistics and this research sitting here? Just make a video. Someone will take it. Someone will take it and put it to good use. Even though my statistics are 2 years old. You know, it's not just the statistics, sorry. It's the concept. So let's look at something like, we look at high unemployment in Europe. The problem with the mobile economy in Europe is probably bureaucracy and red tape. But when we look at developing countries like in Africa, we look at developing countries across the Middle East, we look at developing countries across Asia. The problem with these countries, when they're developing, is infrastructure in terms of roads, and then the second one, safety, and then the third one, energy. But again, a lot of these countries have good roads. Okay, so you have to factor in energy and safety, right? Depending on the type of mobile industry. But I think for the United States, in terms of young people, I think what's really viable for the mobile economy is the food deserts. And I showed you the map of the food deserts, right? Yeah, that's right, Babu. That's right. That's the statistics of those who are actively looking for work, not those who gave up looking for work. You're absolutely right on that. You're absolutely right on that. So the numbers are much higher. So let's look at the mobile economy and how this could play out in a country like the United States. Food deserts. There are thousands of food deserts. And where there are food deserts, we see low income. And where we see low income, we tend to see government benefits. Now, we see that the government is saying, look, we want more fresh produce consumption allocated to SNAP benefits. Okay? The issue with that is a lot of low-income people live in food deserts. So if we see the government moving to get people to eat greener and healthier, more fruit and vegetable consumption with SNAP benefits, even though they technically paid for it and you can't tell them what to eat, whatever. We see the government wanting people on SNAP to eat, more healthy, which is normal. But we see the parallel of food deserts. Where does the mobile economy come in? Think about it. If there are thousands of food deserts across the United States, a lot of these people have SNAP benefits, but don't have access to green grocers. And green grocers technically don't want to go into those neighborhoods because they're like, we're afraid of being robbed. That's where you can come in. That's a potential, right? Okay, let's see. This is almost 1/3. That's horrifying for nutrition, jobs, and just overall quality of life. Can you expand on that a little bit, True Crimes? 1/3? Oh, this is almost third world. I'm sorry. This is almost third. Yeah, this is what I'm trying to show you. So let's look at food deserts. So that is magnificent for food deserts. But let's look at another phenomenon in the United States. Do you know that Middle America has the worst? America is one of the most developed country, but Middle America has one of the most worst Wi-Fi connections capabilities. And one of the mobile businesses was mobile Wi-Fi. Mobile Wi-Fi, where you put that Wi-Fi capability on the back of a truck. You roll right up in that community. They pay you, and you crank on the Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi capabilities. Wi-Fi capabilities. Then we look at things like tourism. Not everyone wants to live in stay in an Airbnb. Not everyone wants to stay in a hotel. There are some people who literally want to travel. With a mobile economy, you pick them up at the airport, or they may stay in their hotel, and then they may want to travel around, let's say, New York State. A mobile hotel. Then we deal with things like mobile medicine. There are hospital deserts across the planet. There are medical deserts across the planet. There are dental deserts across the planet. There are eye deserts under medical, eye or ear, nose, and throat, ENT deserts or medical deserts. Then we go into medical specializations. Then we go into medical specializations like surgery, where people are in need of surgery, but they don't have hospital facilities. And the government can't meet the need of building the hospitals fast enough. Telling you guys, think about the potential of this. Where the government can't build the hospitals fast enough, okay, but you may have the capability to put your medical facility or your medical specialization on the back of a semi, and you can perform your surgeries. And the governments can and will be willing to pay you. Think about that. Think about that. And there are a lot of people who went to school to become doctors and can't find jobs. There are a lot of people who went to school to become dentists and can't find jobs. There are even more people who went to school to become teachers and can't find jobs. Let's look at mobile education. There are governments who would be willing to pay you if you rolled up in there with a bus and you go from community to community to community and you educate the children. And on your mobile education unit, you can have laptops. So not only are you teaching them book knowledge, you're giving them the ability to become knowledgeable in 21st century technology. You're teaching them how to use computers and laptops. Your mobile teaching units. Is anyone else there? Right? Then we look at things like disaster preparedness. How many times have we seen these disasters? And we're like, oh my God, and you see these migrants and it's like, oh my God, we got to get the people out of here. And when the roads are still intact, we're not talking about when there aren't any roads, right? So the roads are still intact. They contract people, governments contract people to do these things. Disaster preparedness. And you pull up in there with your semi, your beds are at the top, your washing facilities, maybe at the top, maybe at the bottom. They come in, use the bathrooms. You take 20 of them, because some of these things could hold like 20 people. Use the facilities, put them in the bed, you drive out. Disaster preparedness. Right? Is anyone else there? Is anyone else there? So there's a lot of options. Then you could put regular businesses. You could be the traveling pizza guy. You know, you could be the traveling pizza guy. I spoke to someone about this plan, right? And they told me, they said, they had a dentist when I first did this research. He said to me, you know why this is a good damn idea? They had their dentist gave up owning a dental facility because it was too expensive. And what they did was they put their dentist facility, the dental clinic, on the back of a bus. And they made all their appointments for the day, and they drove up and met their customers wherever they wanted to meet them. And they charged them just a little extra because their customers don't have to come to meet them. They gave them an appointment. They told them, you got to be there by that appointment. And that's how they run their dental clinic, on the back of a bus. So don't tell me it can't be done. And they do very well. And they don't have the overhead costs of having, and there's nothing wrong with that. What I'm saying is young people want to be flexible. They want business, they want to own businesses, they want to start businesses, and they want to start it early, but they don't want the constraints of a brick and mortar something and the costs that comes with running that. See? So it's feasible. Any other questions? No one else? Is anyone else there? Okay, well, I guess no one else wants to, get in on the conversation. There are 6 people, but no one else is talking. Okay, so think about this. So do me a favor. I want you to like this video. I want you to share this video. And that's it. Like and share the video. Okay, so and just to lastly, yes, in terms of nutrition, jobs, and overall well-being, if these numbers continue and these politicians don't pay attention to the fact that more and more educated young people are not gainfully employed, they're going to have a serious problem on their hands. And the government's way of dealing with youth strife is martial law. It's calling out the military. It's not resolving the problem. It's not sitting down and having a chit chat and saying, look, what are your complaints? Tell us what you want. How can we go about this? That's not their way of dealing with this. Their way of dealing with this is calling out the military and quelling and squashing and running people over with military tanks. Okay? So I looked at these things and I said, we have to address youth unemployment and youth economic inequalities. All right, guys. So thank you so much for joining me. No one else has a question. Thank you for joining me, and I will see you at another date. Have a great evening. Bye.